Welcome back to Shifting Overthinking to Marketing Movement, a limited audio series for creative, equity-led solopreneurs with a story and expertise to share. This gets you out of your own head to find clarity and direction so you can build sustainable marketing processes that fit your body, brain, and capacity. You're feeling more confident in your message from the last episodes, but if not, that's okay. The confidence can build from repeating it. For myself, once I'm comfortable with how it sounds when I'm verbally saying it to other people, that's when I start to use it in more concrete, longer lasting places, like on my website or my social media bios. Which brings us to the topic of this episode. Why pressing publish can feel so hard. So why we hesitate. Do you have entire offers, lead magnets, articles, video scripts sitting on your hard drive or on your notes app? Everyone I've ever worked with, even those who were just starting off, had something that they'd been sitting on but hadn't yet released. So let's talk about why we do that before we start designing our content ecosystem. So when we do have the structure around what to create, we're going to feel confident sharing our unique perspective. An easy answer to why we do this is perfectionism, but I think while that's part of it, I also think there's more deeper issues to think about and consider. One is that the internet can, though not always, be the opposite of a welcoming place. And frankly, it feels like it tests our own worth in ways that therapy wishes. In many parts of the internet, folks are committed to misunderstanding people either by taking some work out of context, insisting that you include this very specific situation that you did not intend to cover, or by maybe claiming somebody else said it first or better than you, or just general trolling. And while this is very unlikely to happen to you, we have all observed it if we've spent any amount of time online. And I find in some ways it creates some hesitation in us. And maybe not all the time, but especially when it's sharing the type of content that people need to see. Because the tendency is often to share some really generic educational content. But it's really sharing content that showcases your voice and experiences that unleashes this overthinking or this hesitation. It's the content that lets folks see the sides of us that help them to vibe check and make a decision on whether to work with us. When we overthink our content, what we're really doing is questioning our worth or whether to lend our voices to the conversation happening. Our creativity and our businesses are a part of us. So fear of rejection, it makes sense. And sure, other people will say similar things to you. But as we've already discussed in earlier episodes on messaging, no one shares the exact set of qualities that you do or is going to be able to explain it in the same way. Let yourself have your own voice and add to a conversation that's happening. If you're struggling with this aspect of it, there's two ways to go about thinking about this. The first one is understanding that it isn't even always about being a unique messenger. Your clients or ideal clients or whoever is reading your content, it may be the way that you explained it, or it may be the time that they're coming to that content. It's just the exact right message that they need to hear. That's still important. So pressing publish, is maybe this is the right time for somebody and that you are really affecting them. To use a story from my own life, I had taken my car to get gas and it did not start. And so I literally ended up calling a tow truck 3 times in 3 weeks. My car was just giving me so much trouble. And I had just started being self-employed not super long ago. And, I had planned for expenses, but not for all these car expenses. And I was waiting for the tow truck driver for literally 8 hours, at least 6 hours. The tow truck was not coming. And I remember after sitting there, I was scrolling through LinkedIn because I'm like, that's it. I'm done. I'm going to start looking for a real job. I can't do this business anymore. I'm just going to set it aside until I'm ready to come back to it. And I was scrolling through, and then I couldn't even tell you who the person was now, which is unfortunate because I'd like to give them credit, was a post about how they too, 1 year prior to that, had been ready to give up on everything, and how they were just like, hey, there'll be a point where I can look backwards at this. And like literally a month later, after they had thought about giving up, they had, hit this level of like stability and success that I had been seeking. And it just hit me in the way that they worded it, talking through the journey and seeing somebody else who was in my shoes a year ago and seeing where they were now. That made a huge difference to me. And it's why I kept like pushing forward and moving forward. Again, I'll tell you, what they said was not radical or revolutionary, but it was exactly a message that I needed to hear in that moment. So if you are doubting whether to press publish, think about the person you were maybe like a year before that needed to hear this, or whoever that one person is, that like, who will this change their, maybe not their lives, not every piece of content's going to be life changing, but like, what is the insight that they're going to gain from this? What is something like, or how am I going to encourage or support the person that I would be working with, or who can have this kind of insight into their situation and support, or however you want to go about that. The other side of things is that, yes, I think because we care so much about those type of clients, right? The clients that we're going to be helping with our work, we also, we care so much that we'll also see other people saying similar things. And I get into my own head about this too. Am I parroting what they're saying? Am I saying it uniquely enough? Am I plagiarizing? And even inadvertently, you will see things of like, oh, I had that idea too. I should, and that's partially why you should be in a publishing rhythm with yourself. And we'll talk about that towards the end of the series. You'll see other people, and it's like, that's okay. I think that if you're in the same industry, a lot of us have come to some of the same ideas about it. That doesn't make them bad. I think that as we kind of go into building that content ecosystem in the next episode, think about, what is my unique spin? What is the things, even bring in your personal interests. Like, I sometimes talk about Star Trek or like science fiction and other things of like it doesn't even have to necessarily be like a very unique positioning spin all of the time. Like, maybe you use specific pop culture references because that's your personality. So I would when you're looking at people that are saying similar things, look at it from like a storytelling perspective of like, how do I use my messaging and my unique perspective to make that unique in and of itself, but also, is there a way that even if this is super dry, how can I inject my own like personality and aesthetic into that? The other issue that I see with content is the question of effort versus results. When working with folks, I feel like one of my least favorite parts is explaining and discussing how realistic it is to see immediate results. There's a lot of people selling that, right? Like, hey, with one post, you can get so many clients, or with one like video series, you can, all of these different things. And the answer is, it's very unlikely that you're going to see immediate results. Especially if you're somebody who's value driven and you're not trying to push people who are not ready yet. Going back to the gardening analogy from last episode, long form content, so think your YouTube channel or a podcast or your blog, it's like planting a tree, right? There are plants that have much quicker return, right? There's herbs, flowers, and annuals. We'll discuss those more in the next episode. But a tree is not going to show any sort of fruit for a long time. But once it does, there's less that you have to do to upkeep it and maintain it. Overthinking pressing publish and sharing your work with the world doesn't make the results come faster. Waiting to plant your seeds just pushes out the timeline when your ecosystem comes together. This is a cliche, but it's true. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. And in all honesty, speaking as a marketing person, it is the reps, so doing it over and over again, that help you to find your voice and improve on the material itself, help you find better analogies and examples, and so that you're improving on that content every time you sit down to record or write. Today's action step is pretty simple. You're going to check your notes app, your hard drive, maybe your Canva, wherever you have some, like a graveyard of content It could be social media, or it could be, the format is not necessarily important here. But you're going to find something that is either finished or mostly finished. So like no less than 90% there. Like maybe it needs an intro paragraph, or maybe you need to fix the links, or like some minor tweaks in formatting is fine. But go ahead and get that ready to schedule and actually do the thing. Schedule it out. Get it out there. Publishing is a muscle that we need to exercise. And just to kind of walk the talk yet again, I'm doing the same thing. This is part of why, if you're listening to this like in real time, I didn't drop all of the episodes all at once, right? An audio series normally does that. I did a couple at a time with the intention that I didn't want to give myself an opportunity to try to continue tweaking it or overthinking it myself. So it doesn't have to be complete for it to be something worth sharing. Next time, we'll get more into how to intentionally build not a customer journey per se, but a content ecosystem that gives folks options in how they choose to engage in our work. So, in closing, let's make meaningful progress in our businesses by shifting out of overthinking, clarifying our priorities that match our capacity and values, so that you can move forward in your marketing. I'll see you in the next one.